It's dark, everybody. I just woke up from a nap. And time to put on another reading cap. I got all kind of caps to read in for y'all, so y'all know what day it was. So tonight I'm going to start off by reading another book. This would be day 4. It would be called First Nations of North America, Plains Indians. This is the back. First Nations of North America, Plains Indians by Andrew Santella. And yes, it's a chapter book. It has a table of contents. Excuse me. Chapter 1. Who were the first people in North America? It sounded like an earthquake. A herd of bison charged across a grassy plain, their hooves rumbling. Hunters rode on horses at the edge of the herd. Skilled riders, they used only their knees to guide their horses. Each hunter was trying to get close enough to one of the bison to aim a killing blow at the animal's heart. The hunters knew that their families depended on the bison for food and clothing. These hunters were the early people of the Great Plains of North America. For many of the native peoples who lived on the Great Plains, hunting bison was a way of life. Today, bison no longer roam freely across the Great Plains, but the Plains Indians proudly keep alive many of their customs and traditions. The bison hunt was at the center of Plains Indian life. Carl Veen, 1946 to 2009, which was the year he was born and the year he died, was a leader of the Crow Nation of Montana. He worked to create opportunities for his people. American Indian or Native American. Sometimes the native peoples of North America are referred to as American Indians. Sometimes they are called Native Americans. So which is correct? When Italian explorer Christopher Columbus came to the Americas in 1492, he used the names Indios or Indians to describe the native people. This was because he mistakenly believed he was in the Indies, an old term for Asia. Native American came into use in the 1960s as an alternative to Indian. Today, many of these descendants of the first people to live in North America would say that either term is acceptable. Better still, most would prefer to be identified by their unique group called a nation or tribe. For example, I'm a Cheyenne. Here's the picture. The first North Americans. People have lived in what is now the United States for more than 12,000 years. Scientists believe people migrated there by walking across a land bridge that once linked North America to Asia. Then, over many years, these people spread out across North and South America. These early people survived by hunting large animals and gathering wild plants. Most of what we know about these early peoples comes from the objects they left behind. Archaeologists have discovered stone tools and animal bones that suggest people were living on the Great Plains at least 10,000 years ago. This map shows some routes early peoples took as they spread across North America. This map shows the 10 American Indian cultures area of North America. Culture areas. People who study American Indians divide North America into 10 cultural areas. Each cultural area has its own distinctive geography, climate, and ways of life. before European explorers, bless me, arrived, several million American Indians thrived across North America. They spoke many languages and had unique customs, beliefs, and legends. Peoples who lived in the same culture area often had similar lifestyles. What are the Great Plains? The Great Plains area is an immense grassland in the middle of North America. It stretches from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains and from Canada's Saskatchewan River to Texas. It covers parts of 14 U.S. states and 3 Canadian provinces. The region's tall grasses bend in the strong winds that blow across the landscape. There are some wooded areas, especially along rivers and creeks, where willow and cottonwood trees grow. But none of the large forests found in other parts of North America exist in the Great Plains. While much of the region is flat, there are a few hilly areas. These include the Ozark Mountain of Missouri and Arkansas and the Black Hills of South Dakota. Tall grasses bend in the strong winds that blow across the Great Plains. Climate. On the Great Plains, extreme weather is common. Winters can be bitterly cold with frequent snowy blizzards. Summers bring scorching heat and high winds. On the western Great Plains, only between 10 and 20 inches, 25 to 50 centimeters of rain falls each year. Short, tough grasses thrive in this dry climate. Further east, rainfall increases to 20 to 40 inches, 50 to 100 centimeters each year. This extra moisture helps grasses of the prairies near the Mississippi River grow very tall. Grasses there can grow as high as 12 feet, 3.7 meters tall. Winter brings extreme cold and snow to the Great Plains. Who are the Indians of the Great Plains? On the dry western Great Plains, early Indians lived mainly by hunting bison. Instead of living in permanent villages, they often moved from place to place, following bison herds and gathering wild plants. They became expert hunters and came to depend on the bison for most of their needs. Indian groups of the Great Plains. Some of the Plains Indians groups or tribes had once been farmers in the woodlands of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. These people include the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Sioux. Around 1400, they moved to the Great Plains and adopted a nomadic lifestyle. Plains peoples roam widely, but most tribes could usually be found in particular areas. For example, the Arapaho hunted mainly in Colorado and the Cheyenne hunted mainly in Wyoming. Early Plains Indians were often on the move. This map shows some of the traditional tribal homelands of the Great Plains. The Sioux were one of the largest Plains tribes and were made up of several different groups. The Teton Sioux or Dakota and the Yankton Sioux or Nakota occupied the Black Hills of South Dakota and lands to the west. The Blackfeet people and the Assiniboine people could be found in northern Montana along the present-day border between the U.S. and Canada. The Crow people lived to the south along the Yellowstone River. The area that is now Texas and Oklahoma was home to the Kiowa and Comanche. Both tribes were famous for their skilled horsemen. In fact, the Comanche were among the first Indians to acquire horses from the herds that Spanish explorers brought to North America in the 1600s. See page 17. Farmer hunters of the Great Plains. On the eastern Great Plains, more plentiful rainfall created conditions favorable to farming. Tribes in these areas raised crops such as corn, beans, and squash. Like tribes to the west, they also hunted buffalo, but they did not share the nomadic lifestyle of the Western Plains Indians. Because their farms provided much of what they needed to survive, they were able to live in villages for most of the year. The Wichita people lived along the Arkansas River in the 1500s. They were among the first Plains Indians to meet Europeans. Further north were the Kansa people who migrated to present-day Kansas from their original home east of the Mississippi River. The Mandan people were among the largest of the Plains farming tribes. The Pawnee were one of the largest farming tribes. They lived along Nebraska's Platte River. The Mandan built their villages on high bluffs along the Missouri River in North Dakota. Stories and legends. How the Mandan came to be. Most Indian tribes tell stories of how their people came to be. These stories, called origin tales, are passed down from generation to generation. According to their stories, the Mandan people emerged from the earth just as their crops do. They say that long ago the Mandan lived underground. Some brave Mandan climbed a huge vine to reach the earth above them. Seeing how beautiful the land was, they convinced the rest of their people to join them on the surface. This grass lodge belonged to the Pawnee. What animals did early Plains Indians need? Plains Indians depended on several different kinds of animals to provide many of their daily needs. The bison was at the center of life for the early Plains Indians. The bison is the largest land animal to roam North America in modern times. Even though an adult weighs as much as about 1 ton, or over 2,000 pounds, 900 kilograms, bisons can still run at speed of around 30 miles, 48 kilometers per hour. For thousands of years, bison roamed the Great Plains in huge herds. Bison roamed the Great Plains in enormous herds. They big like bulls. These enormous animals provided most of what Plains peoples needed to live. Plains Indians were experts at hunting bison and at making use of every part of the animal. The clothes they wore and the cone-shaped tents they lived in, called teepees, were made from bison hides. They sharpened the bones of bison and carved them into tools. They used the horns of bison to make spoons, cups, rattlers, and toys. They braided shaggy bison hair into rope. Of course, bison were an important source of food too. After men hunted the animals, see pages 18 and 19, women cut up the bison meat. They preserved some of it for later by cutting it into long strips and hanging it to dry on racks in the hot sun. Once meat was dried this way, it could be stored for long periods without spoiling. The bison was like a walking store, providing food, clothing, tools, and more. Even bison waste was put to use. Plains Indians used it as fuel for their campfires. Plains women dried bison meat in the sun to preserve it for later use. This method is still used to dry meat today. And I'm going to stop at page 19 and I'll finish this whole book tomorrow. Before they acquired horses, Plains Indians depended on dogs to help them move heavy loads. Transportation. Before they acquired horses, early Plains Indians traveled on foot. They relied on dogs to carry heavy loads as they followed bison herds across the plains. They loaded their supplies and belongings onto a kind of sled called a travois, pronounced travois. A travois was made of two poles tied together in a V shape with strips of rawhide stretched across the V. The travois was attached to the shoulders of a dog, which dragged the load behind itself. See photo above. Horses. The first modern horses were brought to North America by Spanish explorers in the 1600s. Small early horses had once lived in North America millions of years ago, but they had died out by about 9000 BCE. Plains Indians began to acquire horses through trading with other tribes or by raiding other tribes. By the late 1700s, horses were common among Plains Indians. Horses changed the way Plains Indians lived. With horses, Plains Indians could travel farther and faster than ever before. It made their nomadic lifestyle easier, allowing them to move their camps from place to place as they followed the bison. Plains Indians also found that they could track and hunt bison more effectively on horseback. Tribes such as the Crow gave up their farming lifestyle to become nomadic hunters. Horses also made them more effective warriors, able to attack their enemies quickly and suddenly. Plains Indians became skilled riders. I've always wanted me a horse so I could be like Hannah Montana. My stopping point is here, and I'll finish up tomorrow. Hunting. Hunting was one of the most important parts of the Plains Indian culture. Plains Indians hunted many animals, but none was more important to them than the bison. The nomadic tribes moved from place to place to stay close to the wandering bison. Farming tribes of the prairies left their villages each summer to take part in annual hunts. Hunting was a community activity for the peoples of the Great Plains. Men, women, and children worked together to make a successful hunt. The bravest and most skillful hunters and warriors sometimes acted as the hunt police. Their job was to organize the other hunters so that they worked as a team. Plains hunters carefully made their own weapons. Women tanned bison hides to make clothes and other objects. Plains Indians developed clever techniques for hunting bison. Hunters on foot might sneak up on a herd by covering themselves as in wolf skins. This way they could get close to the animals without alarming them. Another strategy was to start grass fires that would frighten the bison into stampeding to their deaths of tall cliffs. After Plains Indians acquired horses, they became skillful riders who could hunt while moving at high speeds. When the hunt was over and the bison were killed, there was still much work to do. Women worked to preserve the meat for future use. See page 15. They also worked in tanning the bison hide, turning it into leather that could be used for robes and bedding. I'm going to use this as my bookmark, stopping point, and we'll finish up tomorrow. Good night, guys.